Daniel Walker does not do things by halves, but even with an all-in approach, he still wasn't getting the results that he wanted, because you can train hard all you want, go all in, and still miss the mark if your nutrition isn't right. And for him, it wasn't until he started fueling properly that everything began to click. Dan only discovered this wonderful sport of triathlon back in 2025. And in true Daniel style, within 4 or 5 months, he was on the start line of Ironman Cairns. Now, that tells you everything you need to know about Dan's personality. He joined the TNA program with one very specific goal: to lose weight and take the pressure off the osteoarthritis in his hip. He wasn't really interested in performance, in fueling, in day-to-day nutrition, or any of that stuff that I bang on about all the time. Just fat loss. That was his primary focus. But what he ended up getting from the program was so much more. And in this episode, Daniel's going to share how he went from being an underfueled athlete, having no idea how to eat for 3 sports, probably chasing the wrong metrics, let's be honest, to completely building a new way of thinking about performance, gut training, and nutrition. So if you've been training hard, eating less, and you still can't figure out why you're not seeing results, Daniel's story is definitely a must listen for you. And if you're ready to stop winging it and learn how to fuel yourself properly, then come and join us inside the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program. Go to dietitianapproved.com/academy and register your interest for our next cohort. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thank you very much for having me, Taryn.
So good to talk to you outside of Power Hour. Now, your background is in MMA and dirt bike racing. What made you want to switch sports into triathlon?
So I've always liked picking something, learning everything I can about it, and going all in, which I think in your intro, you absolutely nailed what I like to do. When I was younger, it was actually cricket. I played a high level of cricket. I played Premier cricket from 15 through to 25 until I realised I wasn't going to play for Australia. That's when MMA entered, and I got into that. I met my wife in Thailand and convinced her to move across from Sweden. And when she came across, I was training morning and night, and she was working night, so I never saw her. So I thought that was unfair, so I decided to step away from MMA and went back to a little bit of dirt bike riding. And then one thing led from there, and 6 months later I was racing, all in. And then unfortunately, when your ambition exceeds your ability on a dirt bike, you end up breaking bones. And I had a year where I ended up in hospital on, I think, 4 separate occasions, fractured 2 vertebrae, punctured a lung, all the ribs, broke my collarbone twice. So all of those things happened. Then I had my first child. It was time for a change, and I wanted to go to something more safe, but I really missed the racing aspect of it. So I went to golf, and I loved the getting better aspect of that, but that ran its course, and I needed to get back into something that would bring fitness and health gains. And that happened after I had a little bit of a heart scare, where the doctor recommended that if I was 50, he'd consider it a healthy heart, but perhaps I should make some changes. So that led me to getting into cycling, and basically just doing a bit of Zwift. And I discovered Zwift racing and loved that. And 3 months after that, I had a friend who was doing triathlon, and it seemed like something difficult and something I wanted to do, and dived in head first. I think I bought a TT bike before I'd even done one triathlon session. And just from there, it was history. So
you're next level. So why did you decide, okay, you've just started triathlon, you've already bought this TT bike that you probably have no idea how to clip into properly yet. It was about, 5 months from nothing to Ironman. What made you decide when you first started out in the sport that you're going to skip all of the shorter distances and go straight to Ironman? I probably think you can understand, Dan, enough to know the answer to this one.
Yeah, I think the answer, I'll start at the beginning. It was my 40th birthday, and so I suppose maybe I've had a midlife crisis, but I had a friend who couldn't attend, and the reason was because he was doing the Melbourne 70.3. So woke up the next morning and was watching him on the tracker and thought, I've just got to get down and watch this. And I went down and I got him on the run leg, cheered him on there, and then saw him come across the finish line, embrace his family, and the elatement there. I'm just like, yep, this is for me. So went home and caught up with another mate, Mick, who is a 4-time Ironman, and said I was thinking of doing busso. This was over a couple of drinks. And he said, no, Cairns is the one to do. So I think I got home about 11 p.m,
drunk.
Probably a little bit tipsy rather than drunk. And just like that, the Cairns Ironman entry was in, and we got started, I think, the very next day.
Oh, my goodness. And you don't have an endurance sport background either. So how did you think nutrition was going to work for an endurance sport before you educated yourself on how to do that?
I thought I'd just be a little bit like Tadej Pogacar and just have all these rice cakes and all these custom blends that I was experimenting there. Really had no idea. I just thought you were meant to eat every 20 minutes or every half an hour. Didn't know about gut training or anything like those. And it's a really steep learning curve.
And what about day-to-day nutrition? Did you have any idea about how to do that when you're training multiple times a day now?
That would be the number one reason why I enlisted your help. And I was trying to lose some weight and eat healthier at the same time. And from my MMA background, when I needed to cut weight, we just cut out carbs. So I'd go carb phobic. I'd have 20 grams of carbs a day.
Jesus.
And when I was MMA, I trained 3 hours a day on that. And within about 6 weeks, I dropped 8 kilos. So I thought that's the way to go about this then. And then speaking with my coach, Matt, he sort of said, well, with what you're doing at the moment, if you go beyond a 500 calorie deficit and you're underfueled, you have a great risk of things like stress fractures and injury. And that was a defining moment when I said, I cannot do this by myself and I need help.
So you joined the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program with a very specific goal. I still remember the first day meeting you, you're like, I need to lose weight. I need to take the pressure off my hip. That's all you wanted. You didn't want to know anything really about eating properly, recovery, fueling for performance, understanding how triathlon nutrition actually works. So when you got inside, what surprised you most when you actually started to learn how to fuel properly?
The thing when I got inside that surprised me the most, I jumped in and had a look at the first module. And normally I'll get a course and I'll watch everything on 2 times speed, watch the whole course and then come back and go through what I want. And I'm like, the first module is recovery nutrition. I'm like, okay, where's module 5 about weight loss? It's like, no, do recovery nutrition first. And at first it frustrated me because I wanted to know everything straight away. And I think within a week or two, it was really able to show me that I needed to have patience and why we needed to start at the beginning. And it was when recovery nutrition, it instantly worked for me. It instantly made my sessions backing up better. And that with combination of Power Hour and being able to work things with you was a game changer for me. And the other thing outside of that it taught me, which this is probably the one thing you don't know, that nobody's ever been able to teach me this, and it was patience. I'm not patient, but Taryn, you've done well to make me a little bit more patient at least.
I don't know about that. I don't get all the random emails anymore.
Yep.
And you're happy to follow my pace. I did build the TNA program very systematically, and we have a weekly masterclass that unlocks, like Daniel said, once a week so that you don't go guns blazing and try and jump ahead and learn stuff that you don't need to know right now. We actually do start you right at the beginning and work on your day-to-day foundations of your training nutrition, because that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. It's not this one tiny sprinkle that you might layer in on race day. It is the stuff you do day in, day out, like recovery nutrition, and doing that well, that compounds over time into better performance. So you can't skip ahead, but for a reason, even though there are people not dissimilar to Daniel who want to. But now that you've gone through it, you're like, oh, I get this now. I understand why she didn't talk about nitrates right on day one. We talked about that way at the end.
So that's absolutely spot on. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Even though you hated me in the beginning for that, now that you understand that structure and you've been through the structure of the program and you had to stop for a second and slow down to educate yourself systematically, for someone that likes to go in, like, how did you think that structure actually in the end helped you learn properly?
It taught me patience and it allowed me to actually learn everything. So there is, for anyone thinking of doing it, there is a commitment that you need to make time-wise per week, attending Power Hour. Sometimes it can be difficult to work into your life, but if you can commit to those things, you will just level things up. And that is why I've been able to retain a lot of the information. And basically now I'm so confident in my nutrition and knowing what I need to do, actually executing day to day. That's on me to do. Taryn can't physically make me execute or eliminate all of my snackcidents, but I'm certainly getting better.
Can't swat that donut out of your hand for you, but I can tell you how to snack properly.
Yep.
One of the things that I do love is being able to connect with athletes every week in Power Hour. So that's where we jump on live on Zoom in a small group. There's not hundreds of people online. Your cameras are on, you're off mute, and we have discussions. I love that you all connect with each other from all across the world and you learn from me, but you also learn from each other. Is there anything that you can remember in Power Hour that was like a light bulb moment for you or something that you remember that you really use today?
Yes, it would be specifically around fueling ratios and how to fuel properly. Unfortunately, pre-Cairns, I didn't quite get into that stuff yet. And that allowed me to make some mistakes by trusting on-course nutrition and being able to discuss that in Power Hour after that happened. That was the game changer for me when I said, I don't need on-course nutrition. I don't need Ironman to let me down by not having the gels they promised me they'd have. Now I'm 100% reliant on my own nutrition, my own carb mixes, absolutely everything. I don't need on-course nutrition. Maybe a Coke and some water and that's it.
Yeah, it is quite useful to be self-sufficient because you hear horror stories of lots of things going wrong. One time at Kona, they ran out of water at the aid stations. They ran out of gels, particularly Morton, because everyone seems to pocket them on the run because they're so expensive.
Yep.
And then if you're relying on that for your fueling strategy and you get to the last aid station and they don't have the one type of gel that you want, what do? You have to either avoid it, choose something different. And it just doesn't make any sense when you've spent so much time training and preparing for this thing to have your whole nutrition plan go out the window because you couldn't rely on course. And, that's really shit to pay that much money for a course, for a triathlon race and not have on course what you need. But being self-sufficient, I think, is a nice strategy to give you the confidence in your race nutrition plan that you can execute it the way that you want to as well.
Yep, absolutely 100% agree. And then being able to troubleshoot your way out of those sorts of things. Now, when it happens on middle way through the run in an Ironman where you're probably actually definitely not thinking straight, that troubleshooting didn't work. I think I said, well, I've already had my 6 caffeine gels over the ride and the run. I'm just going to have keep having caffeine gels because I don't have my non-caffeinated ones. So I think I was over 1,000 milligrams of caffeine and it didn't end well for me.
That is a lot. More is not better with caffeine. So you came in chasing fat loss goals. What other changes have you noticed that have absolutely nothing to do with the scales?
Patience. It comes back to patience. So I've learned some patience and I've learned to take more time in focusing on my nutrition, the things I need to do. And the thing I do now is sometimes it's really easy to say, well, I'm going to take away, might be eating some sort of a sweet snack or something you like. And I've decided now instead of taking things away, I'll add in a healthier choice. And then I'll add in another healthier choice. So right down to, okay, now I've got to add in a serve of fruit and another serve of vegetables. Then all of a sudden, those things that you're adding in that aren't the healthiest choices, they go to the side because they've got nowhere else to go. You're already getting everything you need and you don't end up with getting to 4:30 or 7 o'clock at night and wanting some chocolate or something like that.
I do like that philosophy because a lot of people think that seeing a dietitian is about, seeing the fun police and we're going to take all this stuff away from you and life's not going to be fun anymore. So having the right language around that I think is helpful so that you don't feel like your throat's cut. We're adding in better, healthier choices for our long-term health and our performance. It's not about taking everything away. And I'm not the type of dietitian that's going to tell you can't eat, donuts for the rest of your life, like everything in moderation, right? But there might be more strategic times in your day to eat a donut than right before you go to bed, maybe.
As soon as you get on the smart trainer, you can start eating donuts. You can eat lollies or candy for the Americans, and that's part of your fuel strategy early. So,
oh my goodness! I know when you came into the program, being like forced into my structure, which is not something that you enjoy doing, probably for anything in life, right? Being controlled in any form of way.
Yep.
I say that because I'm quite similar. But was there one moment in the program though where things finally clicked, and you're like, I get this now and I now know that this is what I've been missing?
The moment it all clicked for me really was Ironman Cairns or post Ironman Cairns, where in Power Hour we were able to go over, okay, what actually went wrong, how it went wrong, and how can we troubleshoot these things on race day so that it doesn't happen again. And the game changer it really is being able to rely 100% on myself. It takes away those variables of someone else who might be a volunteer having the things that you need. So I no longer rely on that. So that's a game changer. It's all clicked. And now I look to do that in all aspects of my training and nutrition.
I don't think a lot of people really understand the value of having access to an advanced sports dietitian each and every week. When you see a dietitian in a private consultation setting, appointments are rarely weekly. And you don't have that much time either. Like a review appointment might be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and we have an hour together. And yes, there are other people on that call, but I can dive so deeply into something quite quickly to really understand what is going on. And that's one of the examples of something we did together with Dan is go, all right, what actually happened at Cairns? And it was so quick and easy to go, this is the problem. What are we going to do about it for next time? Which definitely suits his personality too. He wants to, understand all the numbers, all the metrics. He's got all the data, which makes it super easy for my job as well. But the value in being able to troubleshoot and, touch base every week, I think is really beneficial that a lot of people don't or sort of underestimate the power of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I didn't really understand when I first got into it. I thought, well, I'll reach out. Taryn's the best. I'll set up a one-on-one and we'll have 1 or 2 sessions and then I'll be dialed for Cairns and we'll be right. And I'm like trying to book. I'm like, why won't you let me book you? Come on.
Sorry.
And now I know there's reasons behind it. If anyone's, and this isn't sort of general advice. If anyone's looking to get a dietitian for 1 or 2 sessions, you're not going to learn everything you need to know. Like I've now been able to learn in TNA, and I haven't retained all of that information, and I'll go back through and watch things from the start again. I've got everything at my fingertips now that I need to be able to go 100% and get everything as correct as possible. And if not, I've got that crutch I can fall back on and ask Taryn questions. And that's where Power Hour comes into it. On top of that, you're also learning from the other athletes who are on there. We've all got the same questions. And if we're not asking them, you realize, oh, actually, that was a question I had last week. So we're all learning together.
That's one of the things I've loved watching from you is that you came in wanting this one specific thing, but then you got all this other stuff out of it that you didn't even think you needed. And now you've actually improved your entire life's nutrition, not just necessarily triathlon nutrition, and your performance is just going to skyrocket from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly in my last build for Melbourne, we were able to prove all of this with data and performance. I had the best build I've ever had. And I was ready to go. I was 2 weeks out. I wanted to get my spot to Nice. Unfortunately, as soon as I'd finished my last big session on the bike, I had a crash and unfortunately broke my collarbone. So I didn't get to showcase what I've been working through with my coaches and with TNA. So we'll have to wait until March when we go to Geelong. We'll be fitter, faster, leaner, and hopefully even better fueled again.
Leaner doesn't always equal faster though. We're still working on that messaging with Daniel.
Yeah, leaner in a healthy way. It's my off season now, and this is where we wanted to work on. And it's not a huge amount I'm looking to lose. We're just optimizing the body composition, which I now use rather than saying I want to lose weight.
Yeah, and that's good language change too, because it's fat loss that we're chasing. We don't want to lose any of your muscle mass. But a lot of triathletes, we stand on the scales and go, damn it, I'm actually heavier. I'm fueling better, but I'm heavier. And that's not because you've put on body fat. It's because your muscles are actually full of glycogen now, which is really hard to get your head around when you're so focused, particularly coming from an MMA background. Probably stand on the scales all the time. And there's huge fluctuations with muscle glycogen, your hydration, how much fiber you've got in your bowels, all those sorts of things. So it's one of the things I love to teach my athletes is around our language around body composition, so that we can be fitter, faster, leaner athletes, but not at the compromisation of our health to do that.
Yeah, absolutely 100% agree on that. And that's also why I'm using the other data. So we're looking to build FTP and power on the bike. So if we get to a level where that FTP stagnates, goes backwards or doesn't go up, then we're going to have to look at my fueling. Has my body composition caused me to now go down in power? That's the worst possible scenario that we're after. So it's about fueling smart and improving that body composition gradually, which is something I don't like doing. I'd rather rip it all off straight away, but we already know that's just simply not going to work. So we're patient and we're going to do it the right way.
Patience is like the word of the day for you, I think.
That certainly is, yeah.
Daniel, what's been the biggest game changer for you out of the whole thing? Is there 1 or 2 things that are just like game changers?
For me, it's the confidence in the evidence-backed advice that you give. And that's a game changer, being through and knowing that you know exactly what you've got to do for your goals and your body type and what your body can handle. It just gives you the ultimate confidence come race day, even training sessions, that nutrition is now no longer an issue that I need to be worried about. I've got my plan in place. Now I've been able to layer on top of that the troubleshooting side of things so that if something does go wrong, I'll be able to handle that.
Yeah, perfect. Do you have any advice for somebody that is maybe just starting out, other than maybe maybe don't do an Ironman for your very first race, or maybe your advice is to do that. But do you have any advice for a triathlete that's just starting out like you? Like, you're very new in your journey. What are some of the gold nuggets that you've picked up along the way that you'd like to share?
Yeah, it's funny you mention Ironman, and it's one of those things I haven't told anyone yet or admitted it yet. Doing an Ironman, and it wasn't my first, I'd already done a 70.3, but doing an Ironman in that shorter space of time, it was a mistake. Now, we can look at that and we can say, is it the chicken or the egg? Had I not entered that Ironman, I probably wouldn't even be doing triathlon now. So the toll it took on my body when I hadn't run in 15, maybe even 20 years, it was immense, and it set me back as an athlete probably by about 6 months. And the data backs that up. So I'm entered for Cairns Ironman again in 2026. But we've just decided that we're going to go back and we're going to focus on 70.3s because I want to be a better athlete. And that's what I've learned from having this year of data and experience that I've got. So that's the biggest thing. If you're thinking of doing an Ironman and you don't have a really big history, pump the brakes and then look to do 70.3s. If you're like me, you won't listen to this advice anyway. And still, you're going to absolutely love the day. It's the greatest experience ever. And I wouldn't change it for the world. But going back, it would have been better to stick to 70.3s for probably 2 years.
Or even sprint and Olympic distance. What's wrong with those distances?
Everyone can do them. I like to do something that not everybody can do.
And have you upgraded your bike since you bought that first one, or are you still got the same one?
I just bought another one. It's on its way from Canyon. So, yes, I have upgraded. This is the third upgrade. Actually, this one's actually going to be very similar to my other one, just with a 1-by setup rather than 2.
And does your wife know yet?
Yeah.
Don't send her this podcast to listen to then.
No, this is going to be published after, so I'll quickly get in and tell.
But if it looks the same as your other one, just make sure it's the same colour so she won't even notice.
No, she's onto that.
Okay. Hilarious. So you've upgraded, 3 times?
Yeah, I've upgraded 3 times. This one isn't necessarily an upgrade. It's a bit of a side shift as well. When I had that crash, I damaged my bike as well. So it's going through the insurance process at this point in time, but I need a bike. So now is the logical time to do that, and then we'll cover things off with insurance as things go.
Okay. Because you're all in, right?
Yeah,
I need
absolutely.
this now. I need this yesterday.
Yeah.
What would you say to an all-in, like, type A athlete like you that, goes guns blazing like you do and wants to do it all on their own and do it all now?
Yep. I would say that nutrition is the first leg of triathlon. Everyone refers to it as the fourth. I disagree. It's the first. If you can get that right, it sets you up for everything else you need to do. So somebody who wants to go all in, but get that first discipline first, which I'm saying is nutrition, and then layer the other things in, because you get improvements from the other 3 from your nutrition. So that would be my number one piece of advice.
Yeah, I do like that. And I try and promote nutrition to beginners when it's not even really on your radar yet, because you're so worried about all the other bits and pieces and how you run off the bike, all the kit that you need. But if you can get your nutrition right and laid in early, then that sets you up for a much longer and prosperous career than, making mistakes, going backwards, and having to take almost a slow road to get to the goals that you want to achieve anyway.
Yeah, I would say that it's more important for a beginner to get into these things. People that have maybe got a few years into it, they've had a little bit of trial and error. They're still likely doing things wrong, but you can leapfrog those people by gaining that, and you need to invest in yourself and the time as well to do that. But if you're a beginner and you're getting into it, it really is a game changer. So please look at it.
And so what's next for you, Dan? You've just
Next for
finished
me?
the TNA program.
Mm-hmm.
You've unfortunately hurt your collarbone, but I know you have big vision and big goals. What's on the cards for the next few years?
The next few years, the ultimate goal is to get to Kona. I've sat down and had a look at my data and sort of done a bit of a roadmap at how that looks getting there.
Of course you have.
It's not going to happen next year. It's probably not going to happen the year after that. I need a couple of solid years behind me. So we're focusing on 70.3, and I believe that I've got the times now to be able to qualify for Nice. So the goal for next year is to qualify for Nice, and I believe I can do that at Geelong. If not Geelong, we've got a few others coming. We've got Cairns half, which I'm going to be going, and a lot of the TNA people will be there. So I'm excited for that. So that's what's next for me. I've nearly recovered from this collarbone. I think I'll be able to be back on the bike outside in 2 weeks. So I'm excited to get back out because I have missed it. I've still managed to train through on the smart trainer. I think 2 days after my operation, I was back on the bike.
I was going to ask you to share that if you weren't going to, so thank you.
Yes, yeah. So I got moving pretty quickly. I have broken my collarbone a number of times, and after surgery and you get it plated, as long as you're not falling over, I know that it's best for me to start getting mobile. Sitting on a stationary bike was something that I was more than capable of. We didn't push any power. It was all about recovery and keeping things going. And that's allowed me to get through with minimal losses. And now I'm back pushing full power. I had an FTP test yesterday and disappointed to say I've lost 1 watt in that period, but we'll go back around building that back up.
That's not too bad. It's pretty good. Yeah, I did want you to share that because, again, it just is testament to who you are, is that I think you're on Power Hour even a couple of days after having your collarbone fixed on the trainer. I'm like, what are you doing? Just can't sit still, can't hold you down.
No, absolutely. So I always want to be moving forward with whatever I'm doing. So, breaking the collarbone, it allowed me to dig more into nutrition at the same time and other things I wanted to learn as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask this because I know you've probably got a plan, but what do you want to do after Kona? Because Kona is not going to be it for you, I feel.
If I'm able to make it there, it will be to have as good a performance as possible. It will be a very big challenge with the heat, the wind that might be up. So there'll be a challenge there. And then it's always about getting a little bit better every time. So I'm sure that whatever time that ends up being, I'm going to go away from that and go, well, actually, if I just make these couple of tweaks with my nutrition or my hydration, which will be presented to me as a challenge in an environment like that, which I haven't been at before. So I'm sure that I'll have some adjustments to make at that point, and you can expect to cop maybe 10 or 15 emails from you at that time, Taryn.
As long as you join our alumni program, I'm fine with that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing your story. It is a really powerful reminder that, going all in really only does get you so far if you're missing all the strategy that needs to go behind that. And when you joined the TNA program, you had this one focus, like you were blinkers on, this is all I want to do, all roads lead to that, and driving some fat loss. But you've walked away with really a complete shift in how you think about your training, how you think about your fueling and your overall performance, which I love about you because you've got so much energy and we just needed to harness that. It's like my bloody 3-year-old. Harness that energy in the right direction. And from no triathlon experience to an Ironman in, 5 months or something is just insane. But under fueling, and that was going to be a recipe for disaster if you didn't actually do something quickly. So I'm glad that you came in, you got the system around you to support you because you've got big goals and you always will have big goals. And it just shows you what is possible when you stop winging it and trying to figure it out for yourself and start actually doing things properly. So if you're a type A, all in type triathlete like Daniel, you're trying to do it on your own, trying to do a shitload of research on ChatGPT and still just getting nowhere. You're training hard, but you're not quite getting results that you want. Maybe it's time to hit pause. Maybe just, slow down slightly and get some expert guidance. The next Triathlon Nutrition Academy cohort starts soon. So head to dietitianapproved.com/academy to register your interest. Come and join us so that you can understand how to fuel smarter so that you can get the most out of your training and finally get the results that you've been chasing. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks very much for having me, Taryn. And
see you soon.
See you later.
See you later.